Hey, are you going to the party?
No, I will be in DC.
I think Colt Ball's going to be there.
Oh, really?
What? I didn't get it. What party? Are you guys doing a
Actually,
pod party without me?
you're missing two things. This weekend, all the committees meeting.
Can't believe I got left out of the Christmas party.
Send him a ham, Chris.
On this week's episode of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, we discuss the recent warnings from the FBI and CISA around communication security, and we break down the rumors about the future of Chrome OS and the Chrome browser and what this means for the K-12 environment. Thanks for listening.
Live from the NTP studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, episode 193. I am Josh. I am on cold medicine, so there is no filter tonight. With me, he was late showing up tonight, Mark.
I'm sorry. I was at a work thing.
You're retired. You can't say Sarah had you shopping and
Listen,
call it work.
When I get an invite to a Christmas party, I'm going to go because obviously my other work colleagues, hence the two of you, have left me off of the Christmas
It's the
party
only time
invite.
you see other people.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the only time he gets out of his bedroom.
I still have friends.
And Chris is here. Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's up?
So we are K2 K-12 tech directors and a former K-12 CIO talking current topics. It's the week after Thanksgiving, right? Yeah, Thanksgiving
Yes.
was last week. We're finishing it. Did you guys finish up all your leftovers? All the stuffing?
I smoked some ribs.
I made a really good cheesecake. Really good cheesecake.
My
So
wife
everybody-
made chocolate lasagna, which
What?
is the latest TikTok trend or something.
You and TikTok.
Wait, is it a dessert or is it
It's a
normal-
dessert.
Or is it normal lasagna? Which
No, it was just okay too, to be honest.
Oh man.
Oh,
I could go for just give me dirt cake. Just give me the
Dirt
classic.
cake's good. Yeah. I made a really good cheesecake. Secret ingredient, don't tell my dad, was sour cream. He was
Oh.
loving it. He was like, "This is really good." And I was standing next to my mom. I said, "Don't tell Dad this," because he hates sour cream. Like he would have spit it out if he would have heard me say that. It was funny. So everybody's back from Thanksgiving break. All the students are back, and I guess everybody got proxies for Thanksgiving because we have been. We
Tell
have
us,
been.
tell us about it, Josh.
Oh my God. I can't go into a whole this story gets so wild. I had a phone I'll have to tell you after we stop. I had a phone call today that from an outside entity. This conversation should have never happened. Like it's gotten way out of hand. We have so many kids hitting proxies, and God bless our filter. We use LineWise. I like LineWise. It's way better than what we used to have. It's doing its best. But yesterday, it was like straw broke the camel's back on Monday. I was in a bad mood. I had kids hitting proxies left and right. It's all these damn interstellar proxies. So I started resetting student Gmail passwords. I'm like, screw it. If they're going to get on proxies and screw around all day, I'm resetting their email accounts. So I ended up resetting like 60 some odd student email accounts.
Did you say 60?
Yeah. Yeah. Gam did it in about 35
You're
seconds.
crazy.
So
You
the fun-
busted 60 kids?
Yeah. And that was just one afternoon. That was like an hour's worth of searching in my filter. It was fun.
This is not about going to proxies. This is the students messing with you.
Nah, they're not messing
No,
with me.
they've all gotten together and like, hey,
No.
let's get on little Johnny's computer.
No, because I ended
Little
up going.
proxy.
I ended up going and having conversations with groups of students, and in one building, it was a room full of 35 students, and me and the principal and the assistant principal.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was so bad in one grade level that I had a teacher call me who I have a pretty decent relationship with. She calls and says, "Hey, did something just happen? Because like 3/4 of my class just had to reset their Gmail password." I'm like, yeah, sorry, they've been screwing around. I reset all their passwords.
Okay, what did you look up in your content filter?
So I went to the top app usage, or top website usage by bandwidth, and then sorted by bandwidth, and then I looked, and this is part of the problem. I started looking for things that were out of place, like funeral homes, and what was the other one? A church, religious websites. I'm like, what? Why are we downloading 2 terabytes worth of bandwidth from a freaking funeral home website? So come to
Your
find out,
school is crazy.
yeah. So this funeral home and this church, I know we have. I hope to God I get this taken down. Like my goal tomorrow is to get these 2 sites taken down by by a government agency.
The church and the funeral home?
Not the whole church, not the whole website, but a pointer record. So what I think has happened,
That funeral home has like all the condolences message boards for
Yes.
years and years and years.
yes, I'm
You're
not going
like,
to take down
"I'm
the
gonna
website.
Take that thing down.
No, listen.
Josh,
This started out with a church in Canada, okay? I know our friends to the north are nice people, but quit hosting proxy. No. So if you go to McGregorEMC.com, it's a church. It's a real church. I don't remember what province, Alberta, whatever. It's the church's website. They've got a calendar of events. They link to their Facebook page, their other socials. Because at first I was thinking what these kids have done is they'll spin up a fake real estate agent site or a fake engineering company site. And they have a pointer record at the top that is this interstellar proxy. So if you just go to the top level domain, it looks like an engineering firm. Well, at first I thought that's what this church was. I'm like, damn, they went way out of their way to make this church look legit. Like they're posting sermon summaries on Facebook. And so then I started looking, I'm like, wait a minute. The pointer record for their main domain points to some hosting service. I don't remember what it was. And then if you go to church.mcgregoremc.com.
this is quickly becoming your next Alaska.
Yes.
This is
Mark, and
crazy.
we're just scratching the surface of this story.
For our listeners who don't know the Alaska reference, one time Josh went on a family vacation to Alaska and
For
thought
2
that
weeks.
for 2 weeks and thought that the entire episode was just going to be dedicated to him talking about his trip to Alaska.
Because it was awesome.
And we had to do such heavy editing. I mean, we paid a fortune for editing that episode.
He thought that when we went, he thought that meant we were interested.
So anyway, back to my church.
Sorry.
Back to my church
for
story.
that. Go back to you attacking this church in Canada. Go
Yes.
ahead, Josh.
So if you go to church.mcgregoremc.com,
No, I'm not.
it points to the interstellar proxy. And it does it by it's got a nefarious pointer record, an A record out there. So what I think has happened is the credentials.
I barely typed church dot
Yeah.
into the browser, and it wanted to go there.
No kidding.
This thing's taken over.
It is. You need to block it. So what I think has happened, McGregor EMC Church in Canada, if you're listening, or if any of our Canadian listeners want to call this church, I think what has happened is their credentials for their domain service have been breached, and someone went out and created a DNS entry for an A record that's pointing to this interstellar proxy. Because going down this rabbit hole, this funeral home in Alabama that I found that my students were hitting, that we had 2 terabytes of data coming from, I don't remember. Oh, it was I don't remember the name of the funeral home, but it was funeral home website, and it had all the obituaries. Where if you go to,
hey, this is in real time, right? So I'm in light speed. That church is now blocked for security domain sharing. Like I'm already blocking it.
okay, good for you. LineWise didn't yesterday. They probably do now because of me. So this funeral home, if you go to their regular website, it's fine. They've got all the obituaries. Looks like it was written in 1980. If you go to funeralhome, I don't remember the name, .com, it's another interstellar proxy. And if you look at the DNS, it points to the same damn host that the church does. So, long story short, I started blocking.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Shut up. Shut up. So, yes, I've been blocking interstellar.
That's the short version of the story?
That's just barely scratching the surface, Mark.
I mean, when you started, Chris and I have been getting text messages from you all week about
Yes, I think I sent a text, yesterday or Tuesday? I'm going to war with Interstellar.
Yeah, and I think I responded.
That's an awesome sentence.
I think I responded with, "Hey, check out this pumpkin pie I made for Thanksgiving."
Yeah. So it's been nonstop. It's ridiculous. I was on the phone with Fortinet today about it. I was on the phone with LineWise about it. Yeah. And some other, let's just say, initial people.
Well, now that you've taken out a church in Canada and a
I
funeral home in
haven't
Tennessee,
done nothing to the church in Canada. I did make a phone call asking if someone would call them. They said we can't because it's international and that'd be Interpol. But whatever.
By the way, all of that
Legit,
was
Mark.
brought-
Legit.
all of that was brought to you by Verkada. They have great cameras, cloud-based solutions. They can help you out with your cloud physical security. So check out Verkada at verkada.com.
is it me or is Verkada the like awkward transition of like anytime we have some crazy insane story?
We gotta go.
It's Verkada is the hook as well.
Let me just close with this. Another story. No. If you're curious, just look
There's
at your
this
filter.
florist.
Yeah, exactly. Look at your filter, look at top traffic sites, and look for stuff out of the ordinary. Funeral homes, churches, florists, whatever. I promise you, you're going to find Interstellar. The new one I found today is a Doge proxy. So, yeah.
I'm looking.
So if you see any adults going to funeral homes in your district,
They're lying.
And then pulling down 2 terabytes worth of data from a funeral home.
Ask
Yeah,
no
something's
questions.
wrong.
Pull them into a room.
All right, I'm done. That's what
That was
happens.
great. That was
I'm
great.
Cold medicine, Josh. Hey, shoot us an email at k12techtalk@gmail.com if you find any Interstellar or Doge proxies. Well, I can't say this because there's a whole... Get on K12 Tech Pro because there's way more information out there about this story that we can't share publicly. Just put it that way.
All right, Mark, you got some news. I think we should try to Verkada out of here.
All right, let's start with just a quick update on a story we've talked about multiple times. This is a story out of my neck of the woods in Hingham, Massachusetts. A group of parents had sued the school district for their student being disciplined for using AI on a paper. We've talked about different parts of it. We have talked about the headlines of it and given our thoughts and opinions in the last few weeks, but the judge has ruled that officials at Hingham High School reasonably concluded that the use of AI by the student was a violation of their academic integrity rules. So despite not having an official AI policy, the usage of AI, unsanctioned usage, in this case, the judge did side with the school district. So fascinating case. If you're interested in more about that and why or why not we need to think more about policies in AI in schools, please take a look at that one. That one's out of Hingham, Massachusetts. So that case is closed.
It did appear as though there was more to the story than the initial,
Yeah.
as far as what the kid had been doing or not doing with AI with the project.
Totally. And I think there's also, you have statements from one side of the argument, and then not both sides of the argument are able to kind of give their side of the story. So it sounds like the judge did look through all the details and concluded or ruled in favor of the district.
So that's case law now, right?
Case law. It is. Yep. All right. And then the only other story, which is really a big one, and it's more of a conversation here. So this week, we're recording this in early December 5th, 2024. There's been a flurry of messages from CISA, the NSA, and the FBI.
We had flurries the other day.
We just have flurries today, too. About communications infrastructure. And this comes on the heels of a very, very explosive issue in October with Chinese threat actors in AT&T systems. And I think it's very obvious that these two issues are connected. And so you have a lot of strong warnings from federal communications officials and cybersecurity officials saying, we got to start to migrate our communications out of traditional cell phone SMS messages and move towards more encrypted messaging. So, gents, this may not sound like a direct K-12 impact, but at the same time, a lot of what we do, especially with MFA rolling out, is based on SMS. So, thoughts on this one, both with the cyber threat actors potentially being in our country's communication systems, as well as how is this going to impact your school environment?
There was a report this afternoon that said that they've confirmed they are in at least 8 of the major telecom companies' networks. So
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things that whenever you have an incident, one of the talking points is out of band communication. You know, if they have access to your mail or they have access to whatever method of communication that you normally have, you need to have that backup method of communication. I think this is a good argument for really making that backup communication method the primary communication method at this point. And the big one that comes to mind is the two big ones, I guess, is Signal and WhatsApp, right? Like encrypted communication,
Yep.
point to point. I think it's worth looking at migrating to that. And I mean, that's the recommendation of CISA and who was it yesterday? FBI and CISA both said that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Chris?
I agree.
All right.
Yeah, I was doing some, just personal banking stuff today, and they needed an SMS to confirm my identity. And I'm really struggling with like, well, wait a minute, I'm reading all this news about concerns about SMS, and then here is my bank financial institution asking me to confirm my identity through an SMS. I think the country overall has a long ways to go because everything is dependent on SMS for two-step verification, and it's great that so many things, the norm is just to have SMS up and running. But K-12, I think it's been such a huge, huge challenge for a lot of us to get MFA rolled out for staff, and to go back to staff and say, I'm going to need you to change this.
Yeah,
is very painful. And
I'm going to need you to use WhatsApp. Is that what we're going to say?
No,
Is Snapchat pretty secure?
From a MFA standpoint for Gmail, I would push people to the Authenticator app.
Agreed. But to move all of your staff over from SMS to the Authenticator,
to quote you, Mark, agreed.
Yeah.
Like that would be a giant pain in the butt.
Yes.
Horrible.
Yeah. But this is where MFA has got to move, and I think it's not just K-12. I think there's a huge amount of lift that needs to happen on the vendor side because so many of our vendors are just dependent on SMS. That's just the standard.
Could we get there on just giving them keys, UV keys, whatever?
Yeah, but again, is your district going to want to do that? Because that's what, $30 to $50 a person every time.
I might want to do that over. Download this app, scan this QR code.
I don't know.
I would also say the Authenticator app is not the ultimate goal either.
Well, passkeys, right?
Passkeys are the way to go, right? And so we did an episode a while ago about the different types of MFA, and SMS is the worst because there's always SIM card hacking and ways of getting through that. Now you have Chinese government spying on our communication systems. The next level up, though, to use an Authenticator app, it's still social hacking that can get through that and say, I'm so-and-so, can you give me the 6-digit code? Passkeys is what FBI, CISA, and MS-ISAC has pushed in the recent years. So the next question is, do you move your staff from traditional MFA to passkeys next? Is that where you want to go?
I mean, I think we ought to have it enabled. We do. I don't know. I haven't made a giant push for them to migrate that way.
Yeah.
Again, it's an education thing. I don't know.
We kind of did, and I'm speaking too transparently here too, but our tech department kind of did this on accident. But I like it. Like when we have to get into a server, like we're doing the Authenticator app along with a YubiKey, which is pretty ridiculous. Like there's some layers to that, whatever. So we're going out of our way to use a different account, to use an Authenticator app, to use a key. And we think that's a lot, or, here's my hot take. I think that's a lot as a tech department, but I'm asking for a layer of that for sure to be eventually to my faculty staff.
Yeah.
And that's still new to tech to some degree, I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of districts had the challenge of teachers not wanting to use a personal device for a phone call, for a text message, let alone an Authenticator app. True passkeys that are using facial recognition and fingerprint, that's a very, very different argument that a lot of teachers are going to really have huge issues with if you want to go towards full passkeys.
Yeah, still have the conversation of, the teacher doesn't want to join our guest Wi-Fi.
Right.
Like we have this one that doesn't have good cell phone reception, and we have like the Crisis Go app that's going to be for emergency stuff, and it doesn't work well because the cell phone reception is bad. So we've opened up like, hey, teacher, you can use your personal phone on our network, and they don't want to do it for a list of reasons that are righteous reasons to think through.
Yeah.
Let alone like, hey, you want to take a picture of yourself and put it in here, or some extra stuff. So
Josh and I were trying to interview somebody from your department or your district, Chris, a couple weeks ago, and he was in your office and refused to put his device on the school Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean,
we have such good rapport with our people. So yeah, I think that road is long. Like unless big things continue to happen, then just make it happen. What we need is like a Facebook to come out and be the first ones to do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how two-factor got mainstream.
Yep. Yeah, but this is a big one. I don't think enough people are really paying attention to these FBI and CISA warnings on these things. This is very, very concerning, and you don't see an incident that just this incident at AT&T just happened in October, and here we are about a month later with these major warnings coming out that are clearly connected to this. So, you have a country that has been in our communication systems, and like Josh, you mentioned all of them, or possibly all of them. So we're going to have to change things around. I think MFA is the most practical thing that we are going to have to change, on top of who knows how many other different communication adjustments we might start to make in the next few years for these types of attacks.
I think if the conversation too, if you're not looking at migrating to Signal or WhatsApp, you should. And thankfully, iOS 18.2, which should be coming out any time, right? iPhone users with 18.2 will be able to change their default messaging app to an app of their choice. So great timing, Apple. It's almost like Apple knew this was coming.
Good to see.
Hey, did you guys do your Spotify year in wrap?
I did.
I have not done that yet.
I just looked at the podcast on Spotify. The most of our listeners, the other podcast that they listen to, take a guess.
Joe Rogan.
Yep. Darknet was 4.
That's fun.
The most popular music style? Pop music was number 1. Number 2,
where are we at?
I've never heard of this before. The number 2 music style, synthwave.
Yeah, we got some techies.
Yeah, that's
EDM.
We got some Android users out there.
All right, gotcha. Yeah, no, interesting data.
Fascinating.
And that little bit was brought to you by HPE Aruba. You can email our friend Jeff Cobb, Jeff.Cobb Cobb at hpe.com. Jeff's a great guy. HPE Aruba, overall great products. We use Aruba at our school for our wireless. Use ClearPass. It's a Swiss Army knife for your management of devices. Email him if you have any interest in that. Jeff.Cobb at hpe.com.
We are a top 5 podcast for over 300 fans, it says.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening, guys.
We're the number 1 podcast for 112 of our fans.
That's through Spotify. Through Spotify.
Yeah, through Spotify. Correct. Yes.
Okay.
All right. What else we got?
Chris, this next one, our main topic, we were talking about this one, and then turns out we actually got a listener email. So, Chris, do you want to read that email?
Yeah, listener Garrett M. Subject line, Google ditching Chrome OS. So Garrett says, love the show, love the content. Have been seeing that Google might be selling off Chrome OS. Can you guys weigh in on the likelihood of this and what a Chrome OS alternative might be if it does happen? Do you think Google Workspace would still be great for schools, or would that tip schools into Office 365? What do you think?
There's a lot in that.
And I'll say this too, just to get this out of the way. Mark, He says, "Don't tell anyone else, but you're my favorite."
What the hell?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Was this one of your former employees, Mark?
Yeah. Signed, Mark's mom.
Yeah, Mark's game game.
All right, so likelihood, let's unpack this a little bit. What do you guys think the likelihood is of this happening?
I don't know.
Well, I think we should preface this that there's two major rumors out there, and these are just rumors. Like Google hasn't confirmed anything. The first one being that the FBI, or I'm sorry, the Justice Department has deemed Google a monopoly, and they need to break off Chrome browser. And we all had the conversation. Well, how do you decouple Chrome browser from Chrome OS? The second rumor that's come out in the last week has been about Chrome OS being merged into Android. So, Chris, you want to ask the question again with those two things in mind?
Yeah, what's the likelihood of either of those?
I mean, if these antitrust things are held up, I mean, I guess it has to happen, right? We had such a miserable experience with Android apps on Chromebooks that
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I would worry about that. I think any migration to another platform, it's going to come down to the device. Microsoft has yet to show that they have a workable sub $300 device that's going to last 5 years. I just don't trust Microsoft to do that. So are you looking at iPads, or are the Chromebooks going to convert to an Android operating system? I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope it's done after I retire.
There is still that real, which was what was exciting about Android and Chrome OS getting baked in together, was there are a lot of apps that are not available, and apps, I mean, there are a lot of apps that aren't available in Chrome OS. So there are stuff like when we went to Chromebooks back in the day, we did this shift. We had some iPads in our district, and we really pulled those from teachers, and we said, hey, we're just going to support Chrome OS. But it was hard to find the true alternatives to those iOS apps. So you could see some greatness in this if they could pull this off correctly, of if Chrome OS and Android combine. You know, there's not, I still land on, we tried Chrome tabs for a while as an iPad alternative, and it's not good.
Those were awful.
So there's like a glimmer of hope in this, where you're like, man, there could be some cool stuff come up. If this is a forced thing, there could be some cool innovation that comes out of this that makes Google or new thing compete better with an iPad in a school district.
I don't know. I feel like the touchscreen tablet market has always been very confusing, and you know, there's obviously the monster on the K-12, like early childhood side is the iPad, and so I could see Apple trying to bring in Android to compete with the iPad, which is what on the consumer side what they rumored to be. But then like growing that up and into the upper middle school, high school grade levels, I mean, I don't. It's for me, it's hard to envision a student, a high school student, using Android as their office device. So for me, it would have to signal that Google is shifting the entire market towards Android, and they want that to be their desktop OS. That's a big shift in general. Because if you told me that, your high school kids are going to use Android right now, no, come on,
They all have iPhones.
Yeah,
you know, like think of that learning curve. Hot take. Ready for it?
Yeah.
I am an Android user through and through. Android phone. I have a Pixel. Have had them for a long time. When it comes to a tablet operating system, iOS can't be beat. I hate to say it, but I have not seen a tablet with an Android operating system to beat an iPad yet. And I don't like Apple. I try my damnedest to avoid them, but I haven't seen it yet.
I think Android's poison is that it's a software platform, and hardware manufacturers make the hardware side of it, whereas Apple does does the full software hardware, and so you can do a lot, a lot more for experience, but
a lot more controlling that. And that's kind of the gripe with Apple, right? Is that it is that walled garden.
Yeah.
But they can control the experience a lot better that way too.
But I just had lunch with a guy from a local college a couple days ago who was talking about how their help desk, their IT help desk at this college has like a separate entity or arm just to prepare kids who came from high schools where they use Chromebooks.
Really?
Yes, where they're an Office 365 environment, and most higher education institutions are. And he's like, our help desk is struggling with kids, like the amount of support that kids need who come from Chrome OS environments.
Huh.
I think that would be worse with Android.
Yes.
And it's hard to think of, okay, if Google didn't have Chrome OS, like if Microsoft cooked into Chrome OS, that doesn't fit well. If Apple, if another party, like Chrome OS only works well with Google. So I just don't know what does, it's not like a fourth thing's going to pop up that's like, oh, this is great now.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does.
If Microsoft would have to come out with a platform, one that would support hardware that would be sub $300, two that updates could be managed autonomously and wouldn't need a local SCCM server or local Intune, some sort of managed Windows update process. Like do it the way Google. I love the way Chrome OS does their updates. Same way as Chrome. I just don't see Microsoft pulling that off.
It's going to end up being, I guess, the thing where like you open your Chromebook and it says, who do you want to manage Chrome OS? And everybody's just going to click Google.
Right.
They're not going to care about the other choices. So, okay, there's no monopoly anymore.
Yeah, we've separated it.
You got a couple nerds that want to pick something different, whatever, but everybody's going to still pick Google.
Yeah, interesting. Well,
so the follow-up, let me make sure that we answer this part. Google Workspace, great for schools. Do you think more schools would tip to Office 365? And I think I want to ask that, just generally speaking. Google did that whole licensing change thing. On K12 Tech Pro, there were several posts about, is now the time we start thinking about leaving Chromebooks.
Yep.
What do you guys think about that? Do you think we're going to start seeing schools shift away from Chromebook?
Chromebook, maybe. Workspace, something would have to go seriously sideways for me to want to leave.
I think, for me, I think the biggest concern is if you're going to have entire sector, meaning K-12, move from Chromebooks to Android or Chrome OS to Android, if that requires a hardware refresh, as in like all of the Chromebooks you have right now are going to expire in 2026, 2027, 2020, whenever it is, then you're going to have people say, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm going to look at alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the hardware compatibility of a shift from Chrome OS to Android is absolutely critical to that one. I think though, and I feel like if I look at the reason why Chromebooks are so successful is it's just a simple browser device. There's no bells and whistles.
No.
All you need is a browser.
Yeah.
It for me, is the hope is just like, it actually becomes irrelevant conversation to us. Like, I don't care if it's Android or Chrome OS. I need certain things to be able to manage the devices across my organization. Right. And the kids just need to be able to get to a browser. If I can do that, I don't care about the OS. So it's almost like the Chrome to Android switch becomes irrelevant, but also the Chrome to Microsoft becomes irrelevant because we're just going to a browser.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they drag their feet for 5 years.
We sound old.
Yeah, I know. I have gray hair to prove it. I have gray hair to prove it.
No, it's one of those. I was looking through this like proposed timeline. They're talking about 2027, 2028. I'm like, oh, that's fine. That's not a big deal. But then when you think about it, the last 5 years have gone by very, very fast in K-12. So it's not that far off. And so you're really talking about the 1 to 2 hardware refresh cycles out from where we are right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're in that cycle where we buy Chromebooks every year now. It's a smaller group than what we used to do. We used to do big bang, a building at a time. Now we're doing a couple grade levels every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
What's the cheap Microsoft, like Surface Go or something? What's the...
Yeah. Surface Go.
I mean, I'm like Josh. I just can't imagine being like, hey, we're gonna go Microsoft at this building next round. It'd just be it's a culture thing too.
Yeah,
At this point with one-to-one.
retraining staff. Yeah.
I mean, the same goes for a Microsoft district. If I started tomorrow at a Microsoft
Right.
district, I wouldn't be
Right.
like, let's change our operating system to Chrome. It doesn't make sense. So,
Right.
I would love to know the percentage of change, and I bet it's like nothing of a school. You never hear of a school.
Once you start down that road.
yeah.
You don't hear Apple school going to Chromebook. You don't hear Chromebook school going to iPad. You don't hear Microsoft school popped
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Every
I
once
can't
in a
say I've
while.
ever really heard a story like that.
I've heard of 2 in the last 5 years.
Okay.
And they're both within driving distance of us.
But which direction? Because I think a lot of people, everybody starts on Exchange, right? On-premise Exchange for.
This was one of them was an Office 365 tenant that they got a new superintendent and he pushed them to Workspace. And then the other one was an iPad district that got a new tech director and they were looking at cost savings and ended up going Chromebook.
Which Eric, the intern, would argue the cost savings. He would say Apple's where it's at.
Yeah, I
But-
forgot. He was an iPad district, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I think it's irrelevant. If you've been in the same platform for 5 years, you shouldn't be measuring hardware cost transitions. It's all about
Yeah,
how much time is your staff going to take to
Yeah, those are
transition.
hard conversations. Yes.
No, I agree.
Yeah. Well,
So we think it's going to drag out and we're not going to make any decisions.
Well, no, I think this last conversation we just had is like our recommendation to Google is be really, really careful because we don't want to go through.
Yeah. You could screw this up, Google.
Yeah.
We don't want to replatform.
And I'm going to retire soon, so you can hire me to consult.
By the way, Google Admin Console, we want a sweet app.
Yeah, that app needs
Do
to
we
be
not?
updated. Yes. What was it? What did I text you guys about?
It's an investigation tool.
you
I
had
had,
to
yeah,
do-
investigation tool. I wanted investigation tool access in the app.
But you were
Thanksgiving
doing a
weekend.
very, very complex process, and you're like, I just want it at the tip of my fingers.
Yeah.
It's 2024,
Oh,
Mark.
that's what it was. I wanted to be able to delete emails. Somebody at jerk BEC'd us and on day after Thanksgiving.
Interstellar.
Yeah. Hey, this is principal. Send me your text. Send me your phone number so I can text you. And they ended up asking for gift cards. Sent every one of my teachers that. I wanted to delete. I wasn't home, and I wanted to delete that. Find that message and delete that message from my phone. But
By the
no, Google.
by the
your
way, with
damn
a-
admin
with a-
app won't do it.
A major U.S. holiday being the last week, I bet if we looked at 99% of our text messages, it's just Josh and his proxies and the
for
Google
sure.
admin app this week. That's all that Josh talked about in his text messages this week.
Hey,
You know
I am
what?
cutting edge because Chris just found out he's got a proxy problem now.
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. I bet Google does make a better app. I bet they put it at their top tier and it costs money.
Oh.
Paid upgrade.
Secure, not by default, not by design, only if you pay.
Subscription. Secure by subscription. With that note, do you have any other sponsor we need to mention?
Yeah, for sure. Fortinet. Get your Forta everything on with Fortinet. Email fortinetpodcast@fortinet.com. They've been hanging out with us all of 2024. We love Fortinet, love their products. Check them out. Check out their FortiGate.
Yeah, and Illingworth saved my bacon Wednesday, day before Thanksgiving last week. I did a firmware update and had a problem, and he answered the phone when I called.
Nice.
Got me in touch with Troy, the engineer. Not every sales guy would do that.
But Forta sales guys will.
Forta sales guys, yeah. All right. Anything else, gentlemen? Closing thoughts? Look for proxies. Look for weird funeral home and church traffic.
See you next week.
See you next week.
We might not be the same. You share the same pain that I do.
The views and opinions expressed on the K-12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
We were buying words about the phrase of the